Okay, so here, if you have seen, is number one. And this one, I haven't put, what do we call it? An extending handle. I haven't put the slider on so that it can be, you know, any length of strap. I have just put a very long piece on, and this actually goes across me, crossbody. But we can't have everything crossbody these days, can we? But if you want to adapt it, because the basis of it is really very straightforward, and you could do whatever you like. You could decorate the front easily. The handle, extendable even, yes. The handle could be an extendable one. You could put ready-made if you like. You could even use rivets to attach your handle here if you wanted to. But I know not everybody has, say, a Primvario tool or a green machine. But this one I have done, and I have used, I could have used a cam snap quite easily. But this one is just, it's about 8 or 9 inches across, and it's almost 2 inches deep. And down here is, let me have a look. It's about 6 inches. So it's a lovely little size. Now, I haven't put any internal zip pocket in there, but you could if you wanted to. I want to give you the basics so that you can adapt it and add what you require. But this one, as I say, has a straight flap across. Pattern matching is quite good, isn't it? That didn't happen. I didn't try it, but if you cut your fabric straight, they will line up. And then the other one, I tell you what this had got as well. It's got plain denim at the sides, and then the decorative denim on the front and back. Then the light one has got the floral light one at the sides. It isn't exactly the same on both sides, but it is the floral denim. And with this one, I've done a curved flap. So also dead easy to do that. And then it opens up and you've got your inner. It will take all sorts of things in there. But as I say, it looks quite neat, doesn't it? And this one has got a shorter, so this goes just over my shoulders quite nicely, but not as long as the other one. And as I say, the straps go straight, or the handle goes straight into those sides. And that's where you've got the floral denim. Fusible fleece, you could use Thermolam if you wanted to. You could use Styleville, the foam stabilizer as well. So, let's see what else is here. Hello, Susan, and hello, Joanne. Wow, what a lot of you. Pauline likes it. Yes. Sue's been making the easy peasy dinky pouch. Yeah, and what a joy. I know there's certain things, I love things that are quite quick and easy, and you don't have to pay too much attention to what you're doing, and it comes together quickly, and just love it to be like that. So evening, Joanne. And, Beverly loves this bag. It is a happy accident. I'm not a particular pattern matching person, but, you know, I am. Anyhow, it's another different one. Now, the technique, because if you see that there, it is quite similar, but to another bag that I've done. What sort of bags? I do quite a few similar, and I've done it in another way previously, but this way I haven't done before. And I think you'll find it is really quite straightforward. So, shall we begin? Tonight's one, which on the website is under red, Juliette bag in red. And this is the fabric. And those are going to be my side pieces. And bother, I meant actually, I've done the handle in the same as the main, but I meant to do the handle in that fabric too, because I've done it already. So what do we need? Let's have a look. I'm going to dip us down so that you can see what we are going to... There we are. I won't go too close, otherwise you won't be able to, or you should be able to see. Anyhow, what you need, the instructions, as I say, are in the files, PDF. So you'll need one rectangle of fabric for the outer fabric, just the one. You will need the same sized fusible fleece. If you want to, you know, on smaller projects, I even make the fusible fleece a little bit narrower, but it doesn't cause a problem with having the fusible fleece in the seams. In fact, it gives it a little bit more structure. So with this, I would tend to leave it in there. So as I say, one outer fabric, one fusible fleece, and one, which I've already done, one exactly the same size in your lining fabric. I have already made the lining up purely because it's exactly the same as our outer piece is made. So what do we do? 2 strips here for our side panels, 2 pieces of fusible fleece, and somewhere where it has, oh no, I put them in. And you'll also need 2 lining pieces. So basically it's all the same. Outer lining and fusible fleece in the large rectangle, outer lining and fusible fleece in our side panels, rectangles again. So for those of you that, I mean, there is very much very much bag designer within a lot of you, because you can make up your own. But if you want something bigger or smaller, I am sure that you could do exactly this. So if you want a bag that is basically wider than this, but the same dimension depth-wise, just make your outer fabric, your main one, wider, and then still keep your smaller strips, and you can have a wider bag than the one I'm going to make. If you wanted to make it smaller, you could make this narrower, still the same length, and just make it less wide. If it goes up to making bigger and deeper, obviously you'll need to think a little bit more about it, but it is quite easy if you wanted to make something, as I say, slightly narrower. I mean, what you could do, when you have got, this is actually 9 inches wide. If I had cut it 10 inches wide, just think of all those long quarters that you have. And those of you who've ordered advent boxes, there's a few long quarters in those. You'll be able to make so many bags, and this will actually make 2 from 1 long quarter. So quite a frugal or a cost-effective way of making bags like this. And it's not going to take you too long either. So let's see, what are we going to do? First of all, here is the length of the bag piece. So we're starting at one end. Now, the end we're starting at is actually going to be when this is going to fold around. So if we do it like this and bring it over, that's how the bag's going to be. So it's this end, which is going to be the front of the bag and basically the pocket. You know, this is where the bag is. So if you have got fabric which needs to be a certain way up, it is going to, a non-directional is going to be much, much better. With the non-directional, it means that if you start at the other end here, which is exactly the same, it's going to make no difference at all. But you will be starting at one end. So what are we going to do? I do one side at a time, and if we put it by the side of where it's going to go, then we're going to put it right sides together. And I've been using pins a little bit. So I'm lining that up to that top edge. And I want it to line up properly. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin in there. The other thing I will do at this stage is I'm going to put a little dot down here, 1/4 inch from the bottom. So by all means, judge 1/4 inch, just eyeball it. But it is also a good idea to mark yourself exactly 1/4 inch. So I'm just putting a little dot, which is we're going to be stitching down this seam, but put a dot 1/4 inch from the end here, because we are going to stop at that point. So let me pop those just there, those there. So we're going to start at the top here. Okay, 1/4 inch seam allowance. I would have just over a 2 for my stitch length, because we are going through fusible fleece and 2 layers of fabric, or 2 layers of fusible fleece. And when I start, I am going to reverse 2 or 3 stitches, and I'm going to stitch down to this dot just here. So let's keep those edges aligned and stop in that dot there. I'm in that dot now. So this is where, with other bags, I've brought this end up and attached it to here, haven't I? I've gone like this, and then we've sewed that seam. On this occasion, what I'm going to do, now you can see I've got my needle down, so I'm going to raise the presser foot. Let's see if, let's come down, whoops, just a little bit more so that you can see there we are. Right, it's down. I'm raising the presser foot, so I could go like this, raise the presser foot, but raise the presser foot, and then the needle is definitely left in the fabric. We then pull this around so that this edge is going to line up with this edge here. So let's pull that around, and because we've stopped 1/4 inch from, it means that this fabric is now lined up, there we go, with that bottom edge. So I've now put my foot down, and I'm going to eyeball it this time, but we want to also make a dot 1/4 inch from this end here. So I'm going to now stitch, make sure that's there, make sure those edges are lined up, and we're going to stop in that dot. One more, there we are. And then I'm going to raise the presser foot again, this has come up, and pull this around, push that down there, bring that around, line up these edges here. Now you may need a pin here, but I'm going to put my presser foot down, and I'm going to stitch that first little bit, and then I'm going to line this up like that. Let's put a pin, because a lot of you may want to. So let's put a pin in there. We could put a pin, but I'm pulling this back so that I can see that edge aligns there. And we'll carry on stitching right to the top here. There we go, nearly there. And when I get to the top, I'm just going to reverse there, so that's nice and secure. So at this point, so there, we've now got a side to our bag. So here, I now want to make sure, what we do want is the top of our bag to be level with the other side, because we don't want one pocket coming. Let me just move that around. So here, this is going to be our flap. We don't want one pocket being skew like that, so our flap is at an angle. We want it to be perfectly level. So the easiest way to do it, get yourself a ruler, and there we go. So I've lined that up, and what I should do actually is line that with the top of the pocket or the side panel there. Make sure this is straight, so it's a little bit longer than my ruler bit, but make sure that's straight across there. And then, whoops, I've moved that now, haven't I? Right, put that to the top there, line that up there, and we'll put a pin at this side, just there. I might even put 2 so that we can see. Okay, so where the pin is here, I am now going to, I need a pen in a minute. I'm going to move that around so it's at that end. I'm going to take my second side panel, and we're going to line the top of the side panel where that pin is, or those pins are, and take one out, pop it in to hold it. Okay, now this is where it's best to be accurate, because as we come down here, we've got to swivel this bit again, and then the top edge here when we come back up the other side, needs to meet with there. And hopefully, because I've tried to do that properly, there we are, I'm going to make myself a 1/4 inch dot as well. So there is my dot at a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to do exactly the same again down this side. So into the top of that side panel and reverse. Keep the edge here. Nice, all the raw edges flush. Keep stitching down till we get to that. There's our dot. Okay. So I'm hoping you can still see. So now again, I'm going to pull this bit around. So raise the presser foot and needle down. Let's just push that out of the way. Bring that around so it will pull the rest of the bag and line that up. Whoops, there we are. And I'm lining that up with the edge, which is where we're stitching. So I'm going to use the seam ripper to just push that little bit out of the way and then put my presser foot down and start stitching across here. Now, I haven't as yet made my little mark, but let's put a little dot there for the 1/4 inch. And again, we'll work towards that and we're in. And then we're going to pull the rest of this side here up to, there we go. So you can see the side is here. Raise the presser foot, pull it around, and we want this little bit here to line up with the top. So what I would do, I would line that up, because if it isn't quite, if it's a little bit longer, we can actually ease this in here. But I've still got my presser foot up. That fits beautifully. So again, I'm just going to push that corner bit down out of the way, lower my presser foot, and just stitch up this side with our 1/4 inch seam allowance to the top and reverse. Okay, so there we have both of our sides done very, very easily. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it to the right side. So let's pop that round. You can see here's our little pocket. How easy was that? Turn it to the right side, and you've got no, can you see here? You've got no bits that you've got to join across the bottom, but it's nice and neat. It's one solid piece that is going all the way around. See how neat that is? We've got no joining pieces there. And we have, there is the basis of our bag. Okay. Really, how easy was that? Now, I haven't done this, but what you could do is push that together, and you could actually stitch down the side seam to give it even more structure. And then around the base, if you want to, just push that out and stitch along there, and that would really make it very rectangular. But I'm happy with how that is at the minute anyway. So all you need to do is make up your lining in exactly the same way. So there is my lining with the pocket, and the lining we've left just as we stitched it. The lining is, the right side is on the inside. So all we need to do is, no, we won't do that first. The first thing we need to do is make our handle. So you make your handle, however, with extendable or otherwise, like I've done here. I'm just going to trim a little bit of that off, because you never know, there's bound to be a bit of selvage hanging out of the edge. And all we're going to do with this is we're going to take one side, and I am going to pop that right sides together, center of the side panel, and I am going to stitch that in a minute. So I'm going to, but I'll pop 2 pins in there, centered across the side, and then I'm just going to flatten that down so that I can stitch about 1/8 of an inch, so that I haven't got pins in the top of the bag when I come to doing the rest of it. Okay, so I've stitched that now. I've got no pins, and then without twisting it, I'm taking that all the way around so that it can come up to the other side. You can always just check that it's not twisted. So again, on this side, let's just center that. There we go. And let's put a pin. By putting 2 pins, it means that it's not going to shift when you're stitching. I've often put one in the middle and then found that it's skewed a bit. And so one end of the handle is out of the seam and you have to go back in and redo it. So 2 pins is a good move when you are popping bag handles on the side seam of a bag. Okay, so I've now attached that as well. Okay, so we have our bag here, a handle attached, strap attached, and we are now going to, keeping the handles down here, let's see if we can keep them, because we want them to go inside the lining as well. So if I just fold that just a little bit, just makes it easier to go into the lining. I'm going to take my lining here and I'm just going to push my bag into the lining like so. And then I can then open it out a little bit because we need, first of all, to line up our side seams. So get that handle out of the way. What is it doing? There it is. Just tuck that out of the way for the minute. Pins is the way to go. Okay, let's just pop that down. And in actual fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my hands into the bag just to push that down as far as it will go. Now the handle's in the way, so we do have to just push that away. So again, let's just, oh dear, I'm having a fight with it. So there is my side seam. So I'm just going to line that side seam up. There, you can see that there. Line that side seam up and let's put a pin in there. Okay, and then we'll line up this, the other side of the seam that is going to line up with the flap. Okay, so let's just twist that around to make sure. So we want that one to line up too, so that the flap here lines up as well. So let's just put a pin in there and push that down. So we've got that side nicely aligned. We're then going to move to the other side and we'll do exactly the same again. Looks as though that strap side is playing nicely. So again, I'm looking at that part there, align those side seams and get our pin and pop that in. And then here as well, align that side seam. And you can see there that the lining lines up with the flat piece as well. So pin to there. Okay, so we can also, this is where I think you need pins along here. That fits really snugly. So let's put the odd pin or two in there just to keep it together, because that strap is actually pulling it away because it creates a little bit of bulk in there. There we go. So it's pushing it up. And then what we can do, we can swivel that over because we also want our lining to line up around the edges here as well. So let's just line that up. Okay, let's line that up like so and give ourselves a pin in there. And on the other side too, just line that into that corner and put a pin. Now, because this is going to be, we need to have a turning for the an opening for the turning. Now, I didn't want to, usually I'd leave one in a side seam, but it is quite small. And I thought what we'll do, because it still looks really good, I don't usually put an opening in the flap, but I thought on this occasion we are going to. So on this, if you're doing a straight edge, we can, let's just put a pin there, we can leave a gap along the top edge. So we're going to leave a fairly big gap. Let's just put that along there. Let's leave a nice big opening, because that will then fold in really nicely. Let's make it, so I've said about 4 inches across there to turn our bag through. So that's all aligned nicely. And then I would also put a pin or 2 down this side as well, because we want this to all just fit perfectly. And then down here too. So let's just pull that across and pop ourselves a pin in there. And then that's all going to turn out really beautifully. So so what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to start, because I'm leaving a gap here, I'm going to start at this side and I'm going to go all the way around here. Now, if I were curving this top edge, so I was going to have a curved flap, this piece would actually all be continuous. So you're not going to leave a gap on the, Susan Sojo's coming back. I'm not going to leave a gap on a curve ever, and especially on the flap. So where you're going to leave a gap, if you're doing a curved one, you're going to leave a gap here. So it's the top edge of your main bag, but it's underneath the flap. So curved edge, the gap is here, but with a straight edge flap, the gap is going to be in this edge as well. So let us, okay, what we'll do first of all is we will pull the thread out of our needle. So let's see if I can do this first time. Oh, there we go. First time, excellent. Right, so let us start where this pin is. So again, I would reverse at the start of this, because it will also help our seam to tuck back. Okay, so across and to 1/4 inch. So then we'll just turn that around, and I've got my edges all lined up, I can see. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going right to this point where the pin is down here, which is where the flap joins the side seam. So let's just have a look. Let's just pull that out, and I'll keep my pin in as long as I can. I did do it diagonally down there. So let's bring that down here. So I don't want to hit the pin. So once we've got to where that pin is, we can then pivot and just lift that up. I know you're not going to be able to see that very well, but I'm going to lift that up and pivot so that we're going across the top of the side seam. So that's coming across there. And we've basically got, so just keep moving the bag around so that we're going across a straight line all the time. So let's take that pin out. So this is now the top of the bag on the inside. So let's pull that out. I can still see my lining is lining up, and there, until we come along to when we get to that side seam point as well. So I've got my pin there, so it's holding it all together exactly how I want it to be. And when we get to that seam, so I've got my pin there, there we go. So I've got to that side seam, one more I think, and then we'll just pivot that round again, so you can just push the bag out of the way so that our side panel is straight there as well. So straight across there and into that next, there we are. So we're into that corner again, and then just lift that because we've just got the straight edge, straight side edge, excuse me. So just make sure that lining is all flattened out there, and then we're up the straight edge. It's all lining up, and we'll come up to that corner, one more, and then we'll pivot, and we remember we're leaving this open for our gap. So I come to where the pin is, and I'm going to reverse there and trim. So let's see, where's my nice, never mind. So I'm going to clip off now, not too close, but just a bit of these corner points here. So let's just trim that bit off as well. And then one of the main places, so where the flap joins the side seam here, I want to clip into that bit. So I can see where my stitching is there. So I'm just going to cut into that point. That's it, without cutting my threads. And then the same on this other side here. And you can just trim into there. That's it. So you can see I've cut there. That's going to make the lining look nice and neat on the inside. Let's just have a look here, see if this is, yeah. You see, that's all nice and neat there. Whereas, let me show you the one which I didn't clip in there because I forgot. And what we have then, can you see how that puckers a bit? I mean, what I did try and do was press it even more, but it puckers. Whereas this one, when the lining's away, doesn't pucker so much. So, okay, so we've got that all stitched. We have our gap here. Now what you can do is just nail press along there. We have got fusible fleece, so it's not the easiest, but if we just nail press a little bit, you could actually go to the iron and do that as well. And then similarly here, just press that back and nail press. That is going to help that fold back a lot more easily. So here's my gap. I'm going to put my hand in and I am going to pull the bag through our gap. And the bigger the gap, the easier it is, as you see. So we've pulled that out, and then we've got our handles. Where is my flap? There is my flap. Okay, and we have got no... Okay, so there's my flap. There is my handle. Here is our lining. We've got no sides. We've got no gap in our lining. So let's just, I'm going to get the iron over here. So let's just push into, let's see, I haven't got my brush here. So let's just push into that corner. Oh, that's quite nice. Without being too pointy, I don't expect that to be extremely pointy, but let's just push that out. And we've got rather, that's nice enough for me. Okay, bit of thread. Let's just get rid of that. And let's see. So we can actually push this lining because there's nothing to be, oh, another bit of thread there. There's nothing to be stitched. So we can just push our lining straight into the bag, right down into that corner, and similarly at the other side. And we want the lining to push beneath the top of the bag here. So what I do like to do is to give that a press. Give our, where we did the snipping, give that a little tweak, and then that actually sets. There we are. So just give that a little bit like we do with an internal pocket. Give it a tweak, and that is going to settle down really nicely. And you can see here, that's already starting to go back. And in fact, what I'm going to do is line that up because I can press this at the same time. So let's put a pin. Whoops. Let's put a pin in here to hold it together. And we'll put a pin along here because we want this to be as straight as it possibly can, because it is the front of the bag. So you don't, if you can help it, want to wibble wobble along the front flap. If you feel a little bit daunted to actually do the turning or the opening part on the flap, go ahead and do it in one of the side seams. But I just thought it is actually quite easy to get this to look nice and straight, because I don't think you could see on the other ones that I've made that I've left the gap on the top or at the bottom of the flap. Okay, right, so we've got plenty of pins just to hold those nicely aligned, and I think that is going to work. So let's just get our iron, our pressing station. Let's just pop that on and just lower that down a bit there. Let's pull this out so that I can show you with the iron. So it looks like my iron needs a clean. Martin must have been using it, I can see. Let's pop that out of the way. Take this over to our ironing board. There we, oops. No, that's it. Let's just turn it like that. So let's put our bag on here. Okay. Pull that over just a little bit. And then I'm just going to give that a press. Okay. Oh, iron. There we are. Okay. There we are. Let's give that a bit of a press. We can look. Oh, it's got mucky marks on there. Oh. Right, so I'm giving that a bit of a steam just there. I should iron it from the other side, to be honest. So let's just see. Might have to iron it again afterwards. There we are. So just press round those edges like that. And then what we can do is over the end of the ironing board is just push that over. Can we see? Oh no, you can't see just there. There we are. So I'm putting it over the end of the ironing board here. So pushing that top edge back, because we don't want the lining to be showing. So let's just get that and give that a little press just there, a bit of steam. And then similarly around here, just push that lining under. So that's going into the bag. If you've got one of those small ironing boards, those dinky ones, we can just press around there, and similarly just here, let's say, and just give that a press around that top edge. And then that way, that is nice and neat. Okay, so let's just go back to the sewing machine. Turn that off, because all we need to do now is top stitch. So let's bring that down there. So it might be, if you've got a free arm, so if you can take this part off of your machine, it is a lot easier to do. But what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to stitch from here. So I'm going to start, and I am sewing from the inside. It is better to, well, no, I've got to stitch from, so you could rewind, you could stitch along there. But because I like to stitch from the top, what I'm going to do is turn this to the other side. Okay, so I will still be stitching the inside, but if I turn it this way, I'm actually stitching on the outer fabric so that I can see exactly where I'm going. So I'm going to start at the bottom of the flap here, but I want to be able to come round and then just go over a couple of stitches just there. So I'm going to turn my stitch length up to just over 3, and that's it. Now, I don't want the lining showing, so let's just make sure that is tucked under. Take my thread out of the way, and I'm just going to do a stitch around or close to the edge. Okay, so I'm using the inside of my foot to line up with the outside of the, there we go, the outside edge here. So this way I can see exactly where I'm going along the top. And I want this to be nice and straight. So I quite often, with the seam ripper, just hold that down. You can do it with a stiletto tool or an awl. And just, that's it, just so that we can make sure we can pull that fabric over a little bit so that that lining fabric is not showing outside of our outer fabric. So just pull that over. I can take that out now. And what we're trying to do is make, or not make, the front look as though we've turned it in. We want it to disappear. There we are. I don't think you can tell there at all that I've turned the bag through the front of the flap. So I'm just going down this edge, and just like we did previously, I'm going to be turning this as we get to the corner. So there we go. I'm near the corner, and then I'm going to pivot the work. Just pull that so that it's nice and straight. And this part has got our bag handle coming out of it. So come to the other side, come to the seam. There's the seam. And then turn the bag a little bit further so that we've just got this long straight edge, which is the top of the bag on the inside. So then just pull that around. And keep pulling it around just so that we're working with that straight edge. And I'm coming over the bag handle now as well. And we're nearly the whole way round. So let's just pull that nice and straight. Make sure the handle is pulled out as well. You don't want to be stitching through that. So one more to there. And then we can pivot that round to just come back up. So I think I can do one more stitch actually this way. So one more, and then we can pivot round and come up the side of the bag and look to see where you're stitching and see if you can go through those stitches perfectly. Okay, so we've gone through those, and all we need now is just to clip that thread away on that side. And we'll clip it on this other side as well, and then turn it. And in fact, I'm just going to just give that another little press because I sort of screwed it up just that little bit when I was doing the turning it through. So let's just see if we can make that look so much nicer. Okay. Yeah, it's just, so let's just turn that through to the right side again. Okay, and tuck the lining in. The lining sits in there just beautifully. Just pop your fingers right down in there, and you can see then how neat it looks in here because there's no puckering, and we've got a nice straight, albeit that's come off the bottom of the iron, which is really quite irritating, and we can pull our flap over, and we've got a lovely, neat bag there. Okay, so I won't put the snap on at the minute, but what I would do is just look at my, let's just go up just a little bit so we can see. I would hold my bag up this way. I would pull the flap so that it fits along where the handle is on both sides, like so, and just bring that over. Oof, there we are. Bring that over like that and see where that lines up. Okay, there's our handles just there. So when we pop it down, so the flap is going to come down. You can hardly see really. Come down here. I would measure halfway across here and make myself a mark. And that's where I would put my front stud and the one underneath, which can go through there. But that's as difficult as it gets. So this is a Jo Morton fabric. She used to design for Moda, but now she designs for Andover. So lovely autumnal fabric, and suits it quite well, I believe. Okay, let's have a look. Let's just come straight back up again. Here we are. And of course, there's still no, Kathleen's catching up later. Lovely. Yes. Oh, that's lovely. Let's just see. I don't think I have, oh, I see Jill's there. Jill, I'd only finished the instructions at 4:45 this evening, so I haven't sent it through to you, but I just hope, oh, there's Jane. Hello, Jane, and hello, Nikki. I just hope that I haven't made any errors, but you've always got the video, but all the measurements are in there. So, as I say, it's got those a nice stripy side, and the handle in the kits will be the width of fabric, which is about 40 to 42 inches. But it's a nice little bag, nice little and easy. I vow that every single one of you can make these. So there is our one with a rounded flap. There's a straight flap as well. And then, of course, we've got the denim one, which the denim ones, the kits will have a whole width, which is about 70 inches. So if you want a very long strap, you've got 70 inches you'll have with those to be able to make a long strap. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed. Oh, I didn't turn that off. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. I thoroughly enjoy making this. I know I've done the lining beforehand and the handle, but there's only about an hour's work. So if you double it for yourselves and say 2 hours, I'm sure you can find 2 hours in a day and be able to run one of these up just like that. Or even better, if you get a few cut so that you can just stitch, even better. And the other thing that you'll find with your sewing machine, if it has got the free arm, you know, where you can take the accessory box off and you can just lay it over, it is so much easier to do it that way than the way I was doing it. So, bag of the month for October is the Juliette bag. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed watching me make that, and I hope you'll make a few too. If you do, please pop it in So Trisha Sews, because I'd love to see what you've been making. So take care of yourselves. Enjoy your evening, albeit cold and dark. And I'll see you again on Thursday, hopefully at midday, to see how the new style live in the daytime fabric sales go. I will be doing Thrifty Thursday still as well. And then Friday for the reveal. So all I say is thanks for watching and bye for now.